As mums, we're always feeling tired and trying to get that next hit of coffee to help us get through the day. But it doesn't have to be like this as I chat with Mel Finlay, who is a nutritionist and specialises in women's health. Welcome to the Working Mama podcast, a show that provides real-world tips, tricks and advice to all working mamas on how they can have a career, family and hopefully one day break the glass ceiling. Welcome, Mel. Welcome to the Working Mama podcast. How's your day going so far?
Oh, pretty good. Thanks for having me, Karina. It's we're just saying that we've followed each other for a little while, but we haven't actually had the chance to meet. So here we are.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of social media and also following different working mums on the gram, as people will say. So it's great. I know a little bit about you, Mel, but do you want to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how would you best describe you, Mel?
Okay, well, I live in the western suburbs of Melbourne with my husband and my two little ones. So I've got a 5-year-old who's just started school. So we've just started our schooling career, I suppose you could say.
And it is a career.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got a almost 3-year-old daughter who she's at daycare and she loves to dance and sing and all of those things. And I'm a holistic women's health nutritionist. So what that means is that I work obviously in the field of women's health and I try and help women to get to the root causes of what's going on with them, with their health. So some of the things that I might see in my clinic is women experiencing painful periods. Some might be diagnosed with a particular health issue like endometriosis or polycystic ovarian syndrome. They're probably the main ones that come in. I do also see a lot of just very tired, burnt out women, especially in the last 12 months or so. That's definitely a theme that's coming into the clinic with lots and lots of mums doing the juggle. And best describe me, I love to help people, and I realised once I'd qualified as a nutritionist and then soon after became a mum, that I wanted to help mums and women specifically because I feel like sometimes we're the most overlooked demographic in terms of our health, and we're always putting other people's needs before our own. So I wanted to help women do something for themselves, and if I could change how they feel just even a little bit and make life easier for them and more enjoyable for them, then that just makes that just is it and a bit for me. So that's me.
That's awesome, Mel, because it is so true that as mums, particularly working mums as well, that we do put everyone else's needs ahead of our own because, we're like, oh, look, I've got to get kids off to daycare, school, husband, dogs, everything. And it's busy and you are running constantly of pretty much sometimes on adrenaline as well. And as what you said, the last 2 years has been pretty difficult, particularly for mums in Australia with lockdowns. So no doubt there's been a lot of tired and burnt out women come through your clinic.
Yes, absolutely. That's very true that sometimes it feels like women are just running marathons and they get a break at the very end of the day, but they're too exhausted to really enjoy it or do anything for themselves other than kind of collapse in a heap on the couch, which is just no way to live, really. So yeah, it definitely needs to be addressed and changed.
So what can we do to stop feeling like we're running a marathon every single day?
Oh, gosh, yes.
And I know that's like how long's a piece of string?
True, it is how long is a piece of string. The first thing that I tell my clients is that they need to carve out, even if it's just 10 minutes of their day, where they can have that 10 minutes to themselves to do something mindful. So whether it's a little bit of meditation with an app, which is what I like to do, or some breath work, or just sitting in a corner and reading a book and having a cup of tea, just something that's specifically for them and to address their need to have a moment to themselves. And sometimes it can look really scrappy. Like, for example, yesterday I was feeling just a bit kind of lethargic and a bit And I was due to pick up Evie from daycare. That's my daughter. So what I did is I got husband and my little boy, who had just finished school for the day, to drop me at daycare with the pram so that I could walk her home. So we're kind of doing the job that I needed to get done, but I also kind of turned it into a little thing that I could do for myself. So we walked home, and it was, the sun was shining and birds were singing, and it just sort of changed the way that I was feeling and the trajectory for the rest of the evening. So just doing little things like that, if you can get something done like that each day, you are halfway to helping yourself feel like you can step off that treadmill a little bit.
And it's also it's amazing what the impact of exercise is as well, isn't it, on your endorphins and your outlook, by just getting that fresh air and getting that body and mind moving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even if it's only for 5 minutes, it's still 5 minutes more than what you would have done, and you feel so much better for it. So absolutely.
And as what you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of women that are tired and exhausted. And I know, recording this, last night had a bit of a crazy night with the kids.
Yeah.
Both of them were up at different points, and I've already had 2 coffees today because I felt like that's the way that I need to probably refuel and energize myself. But I think also mentally I'm like, right, I need a coffee. But it's not always about just reaching for that next snack or the next coffee, is it?
Yeah. Definitely there are things that you can fuel your body with to help you get over the line in those moments. So, like you just said, you had a really crazy night with the kids, so you're feeling pretty exhausted. Sometimes reaching for caffeine as soon as you wake up in the morning can actually be counterproductive. It will boost you up for a little bit of time, and then the caffeine will wear off and you'll go back to feeling exhausted again. And what you're actually better off doing is waiting about an hour or so after you wake up in the morning and actually having your cup of coffee with some food, ideally some protein, to help boost those energy levels for the day and stabilize your blood sugar as well. But you're actually giving yourself that hour, you're allowing your sleepy hormones to wear off a bit more, so that when you actually put the caffeine into your system, it will do what you want it to do, which is actually stimulate your nervous system a bit, make you feel more alert and give you a little bit more of an energy hit. So yes, the way that we fuel our bodies, definitely, there is a good way, and then there's the not so, or the unproductive way of doing things. But I would definitely never tell you not to have that cup of coffee.
That is awesome. I love to hear it. So what are some of those good ways to help us fuel our bodies? Because also, as you said, running the marathon, during a marathon, you do need to probably have some snacks along the way. And I know as mums, we often will snack and take those little bits of moments of time where we can. But there's some other things that we can do that are positive ways to help fuel our bodies. Because I know sometimes as well, like you can start to feel a bit frumpy if you're not, exercising and things as well.
Yeah.
Just making sure, because I've read before in the past, like you are, like mentally, it can also impact by what you're eating as well.
Definitely. Well, like I sort of alluded to, protein, especially in the morning, is really, really helpful for helping to stabilize our blood sugar. And why that is so important is that if our blood sugar is all over the place, and then crashing down again an hour later because we've fueled ourselves with, just for example, like some carbohydrates by themselves, that is going to spike our blood sugar. So we feel okay for a little while, and then an hour later we've come crashing down. We feel lethargic and our body is craving the next kind of sugary hit. So we might reach for like the raisin toast or something else that's going to perk us back up. But then the same thing kind of happens again, and we kind of spend the whole day chasing our tail when it comes to our energy and this picture of our blood sugar. So if we preempt that by using protein and balancing our protein with some nice carbohydrates and some good fats as well, that is what's going to stabilize our blood sugar, keep us feeling energized, ward off the brain fog that happens when we have those blood sugar crashes. It will stop the sugar cravings as well, so we're not constantly trying to find the Tim Tams or whatever's in the back of the cupboard that ends up making us feel even worse. And you'll find that if you do that over time, you just start to feel better and better, because we're nourishing our bodies and our cells with this these nutrients, this protein, this good fat, these good carbohydrates, and that affects how every cell in our body works. So we'll have more energy, our immune systems will be tip top, our hormones will be balanced, therefore our cycles will be better. It kind of has this flow on effect. So snacking is absolutely fine if you're hungry, but again, choosing something that's protein dense and maybe has a little bit of fat in it too, that's the best choice in order to fill you up, keep you satiated, which is what a snack is supposed to do, but help to stabilize that blood sugar so that we keep our energy stable throughout the afternoon, especially. That's why that 3 p.m. time, I hear it from every single woman is, 3 o'clock comes and I just want all of the sugar or all of the caffeine. And it's because you've spent the whole day with this blood sugar that's been up and down from that lack of protein. And then at nighttime, when we finally hit the couch at 7:30 or 8 o'clock or whenever our kids go to bed, again, we're kind of searching for that sugary hit, because what our body's actually asking for is some more nutrient dense food like protein and fat. So that was a really long explanation.
No, it's really helpful to also get that. So do you have some examples of some really good protein food or some protein snacks?
Yes. My number one favorite protein snack is Bliss Balls, but not the sort of traditional Bliss Balls you would find at the supermarket that are full of dried fruit. A lot of them, you'll see on the back of the packet that the first ingredient is dates. And the problem I have with that is that dates are so heavily concentrated in their sugar because they're dried fruit that they will immediately spike blood sugar. Mm-hmm. So I like to make Bliss Balls with things like almond meal, coconut oil, cacao, because I love chocolate, a little bit of sweetener too, of course, hemp seeds. I've actually got a really good recipe on my website that people can go and check out, or I've got a free snack ebook too that's got this recipe in there. And so what you're giving yourself is this protein and fat dense snack, and that feels a little bit treaty as well, but a couple of those fills you up, stabilizes your blood sugar, and gets you through until the next meal. And then in terms of the main meals, if we go with breakfast, eggs are great. I love eggs because they're so full of protein and those good fats that I was talking about. And they can be easy to do. Like I sometimes just throw a couple of eggs in a pot of water and boil eggs, and that's my breakfast, and it takes no time at all. And lunch, I really like salads, and I give this idea to people all the time. But when I say salads, I don't mean just like a few pieces of lettuce and, a tomato and that's it. It has to still contain that protein and that fat that I was talking about. So whether it's meat-based protein or plant-based protein like chickpeas or legumes or something, and then lots of different veggies, and then maybe some avocado for your good fats and nuts and seeds, and all of a sudden you've got yourself this salad that's like, a very satiating meal, and you're giving your body that nourishment and you're sustaining your blood sugar and therefore your energy throughout the afternoon.
That's amazing. That's so good. So what we'll also do is I'll get those links from you and we'll include them in the show notes.
Okay.
Because there's so many people, I know even myself, if you can make those little things and those small changes, it'll certainly, because we all do it. We all get to that 3 p.m. and it's like, all right, I'm going to the cupboard, particularly also working from home.
Oh, yeah.
Which we all know that hopefully that's, you'll have at least some days a week in the new normal, being able to do that. So by having some of those snacks and those lunch options will certainly help, going forward to help overcome some of those
definitely
delightful, dips that we have in the day.
That's it. And they do take a bit of extra work, but I think it's well worth that, spending that time doing a little bit of that prep work in order to feel energized throughout the day and not feel like you're constantly dragging your feet around trying to get through the day. There's a big difference between enjoying your day and enjoying what you're doing and just getting through until 8 o'clock when you can fall in a heap on the couch.
Yeah, and you're reaching for that chocolate.
Exactly.
And so, are there any other contributing factors that you've seen from your practice in relation to tired and burnt out mums? I know that you did something on Instagram recently just around the mental load impacts and also what that has on working mums and even on, I guess, our hormones and our stress levels as well.
Yeah. Yes, if you continue to rush around and not give yourself that time to breathe, as the weeks go by with that, it will start to affect your hormone balance, and you'll end up with periods that are maybe out of whack, like your cycles become shorter maybe, or your periods become heavier and more painful. And it's because that constant stress that your body is in and that cortisol pumping through your body is increasing your estrogen, which is the hormone that, has a lot to do with people feeling, bloated and tired and crampy at the end of their cycle. So again, it's about trying to break that cycle. And actually, one of the most effective ways to bring cortisol back down again is to breathe. So something like 5 deep breaths in through the nose and then out through the mouth is enough to signal to your body that you are safe and bring yourself back into your rest and digest part of your nervous system rather than the flight fight mode that we're always rushing around in.
Yeah.
And therefore our cortisol levels start to drop. And the more and more we practice this practice, the more efficient our body becomes at recognizing this signal and flicking our nervous system back into rest and digest. So I always recommend to my clients trying to do this at least once a day, but ideally 3 times a day. And sometimes it's helpful to put like an alarm in your phone or into your work calendar or something to remind you to just stop for a second and do these 5 breaths. It takes literally, 10 seconds to do, but the effectiveness is quite profound on our nervous system, and therefore our cortisol levels and our adrenals, which pump out this cortisol, and therefore our hormones overall, month in, month out.
It's amazing, something so what you would think is relatively simple, I say in inverted commas, just by breathing. It's amazing just by that extra oxygen around our bodies, I guess also stopping for that moment, how that can really influence our nervous system and I guess how it's overall functioning.
That's it. I think if you actually become conscious of your breath, you will be surprised to find that there are often parts of the day where you are just not taking in enough air. So not that we stop breathing, but we start to shallow breath, or we hold our breath in while we're, doing something a little bit stressful or finishing off a task or rushing around. So not getting that oxygen in itself is hard on our nervous system, but also our energy levels start to drop because our cells are not oxygenated enough. Breathing is the number one thing to bring down that stress and to help us feel energized. And you will actually notice within yourself, if you stop to do these 5 breaths, that you will start to feel calmer. You'll start to feel yourself actually like coming down a notch in terms of that stress level.
Oh, sorry. I'm actually sitting here thinking about my breathing as we're actually saying this. Is there anything else that we can do? So it's in addition to the breathing, just to help manage our stress and our hormones?
We're definitely trying to get 8 hours of sleep, which saying this to you, it's probably not the most helpful, but definitely.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh because...
Yes, it can be hard to get that 8 hours of sleep, but trying to get it. So, getting yourself to bed that little bit earlier is always helpful, because if we're more rejuvenated, we've got more resilience to stress. So we're able to kind of tackle our stress a little bit, or handle our stress a little bit better rather than getting kind of letting it get out of hand and unmanageable.
Which sometimes this can come from little people. So
yes, absolutely, 100%. So getting to bed earlier, and surprisingly, the women that I talk to, they struggle with this because that end of the day time is our time, isn't it? Like the kids are in bed and we've finally got some time to ourselves, and we kind of just want to make that last for as long as possible. But it can sometimes be to our detriment if we're not getting to bed early enough to get at least the opportunity to have that 8 hours of sleep. And, you know, the kids will ultimately decide for us if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah. So the deep breaths, sleep, is there anything else, or they're the main big factors?
I think they're the main ones. Last one I'll say is to try and find time to do something. Maybe it won't be every day, but time to find something that brings you joy, that is just something for you. So whether it's going to a dance class or a yoga class or reading a book that you've wanted to read or getting out for a walk, whatever it is, something that's for you that brings you to the present moment, because it's all about, again, coming back to that breath. And when we're doing something joyful, you know, our breathing slows down, our cortisol levels drop, and over time, that is how we heal ourselves from burnout, is by giving our bodies the chance to relax.
So good. And just what are some signs or some triggers to know and to look out for, just to know that we're a little bit stressed and our hormones might be a bit out of whack, and to then also see someone such as yourself?
Well, in terms of the hormones, the first signs are definitely changes to our cycle. So like I was saying before, if it gets a little bit shorter, that's a good indication that there's stress. And that is something that happened to me through that first big lockdown. I can't even remember when that was, 2020. I found my cycle getting just shorter by like a day or two, and also feeling really cranky in those couple of days before, which wasn't normal for me, and it's not really normal for anyone to get that really agitated, you know, that kind of where you want to fly off the handle all the time. And stress, what it does is lowers our progesterone levels, which is the other big player in our hormones. And low progesterone leads to shorter cycles and those mood swings. So yeah, that's one of the signs. In terms of actual burnout symptoms, and there's a technical terminology for what burnout is, but we'll just call it burnout for the sake of simplicity. But it comes in stages, and the first stage is feeling like you can't switch your brain off. So you feel like you're constantly in thought cycles, sleep becomes elusive, and you're just constantly feeling like you can't bring yourself down a notch. And then the next stage, you actually start to feel exhausted from that. So it doesn't matter how much sleep you get or what you do, you're just constantly feeling lethargic, brain foggy. And that's because those little adrenal glands that sit just sort of under your bra, just there in your chest, they have given up trying to regulate your cortisol, and it's just kind of free flowing and can lead to that real exhaustion feeling. So if you get to that point, there's definitely work to be done in terms of reversing that and healing those adrenal glands.
And that's when people can see someone such as yourself,
yes,
to help get back on it.
Yes, definitely.
And are there some common signs and symptoms that you often see of people, particularly say working mums, that come through you, like with POCs and things like that? Like, how do we know that something may not be right in ourselves? And like, I know myself, I've actually got a thyroid issue that I actually didn't recognize, and I didn't even realize I had it until I tried to fall pregnant. And it was something that we had a miscarriage, and I then discovered that I had an underactive thyroid, and everyone goes, oh, well, you don't have some of the symptoms, you're not too overweight and things. I said, yeah, but then I started taking thyroxine. It was really interesting. My brain fog completely removed. My levels were fine, and I actually felt more level, just more me again.
Yeah.
But it's not until I had that event and I was trying to fall pregnant was it actually diagnosed. But it's amazing how many people are probably also walking around that don't even realize they may have some symptoms of, you know, of what you talk about, of, you know, POCs and endometriosis and things like that. They're like, oh, I've just always maybe had painful periods, but not actually realizing there's something more to it.
Well, to that, I would say we should all be talking to our doctors and getting regular blood work done, whether it's usually, I would say every 12 months, which we are entitled to ask for. And it can be covered through Medicare. And there doesn't have to be a particular reason other than you just want to make sure that everything is running well. And yes, testing a thyroid is one of the first things that I do when I see women with periods that are off, or they're feeling particularly exhausted, or even they're having digestive issues as well. Testing the thyroid would be the number one, and testing things like iron, vitamin D, B12, all the nutrients that we need to be feeling energized. And they're the ones that we can see declining when we're not fueling our bodies properly because we're too busy rushing around. Postpartum, in that postpartum period, so like you've got a 1-year-old, so I would definitely say to you, it's very important right now to be keeping on top of nutrient levels and hormone levels like your thyroid, because things like, well, just post-pregnancy, first of all, but also things like breastfeeding can really wreak havoc on our nutrient levels and our thyroid. So just always checking in and getting those levels done every so often, just to make sure things are going well, so that if anything isn't, it can be picked up and corrected before it gets to the point where, detrimental things are happening to your health.
So useful. So definitely, as always, seek help. If in doubt, be your own advocate. And there's no harm in getting a test done. Blood works don't take too much. As Mel said, they're relatively, they're covered by Medicare and things like that, and get a second opinion, or just make sure they're within those normal ranges. Because I know when I found mine, it was like, oh my goodness. But it's once it's diagnosed, it's just this weight off your shoulders, and it's just like, oh, that's a reason why I've been feeling this way or not right, and things like that. It's
that's right.
And there's it's not just there's so many times, I think, is what we say as working mums, I'm just exhausted, and we try and just put it into a box. But as what you're saying, there's often more to it if we do sometimes just a little bit of research.
Yes, and sometimes doctors put us in that box, and I've experienced that myself, and I've seen my clients experience it too, where the doctors will just say, you're a busy mum, of course you're tired. But that's when it's up to you to really be your own advocate and say, no, I actually really want to just double check and make sure that there's nothing else going on. And if you do get resistance, you're also entitled to a second opinion, like you just said, and go somewhere else, or come and see someone like myself who can also help you navigate that and advocate for you, either with your doctor, or we can even go down the private route of getting testing done, which I often do for things like testing people's cortisol levels. That's a saliva test that can be performed, and it's not often routinely done by doctors or that they would agree to do in a blood test. But there's always a different way to go about getting these things tested. So working with someone in allied health could be the key for you if you're really struggling.
So good. And getting dinner on the table every night is, I know, a challenge at times for many working parents, and just I know that we've started eating in the last 12 months with our 3.5-year-old, and it's definitely changed his approach and openness to food. Do you have some strategies or some hints and tips to actually putting, nutritious, healthy meals? Because that's always one thing we say, like as working mums, like we should be doing this, and we're like, oh, look, sometimes I'm just going to get whatever's quick and easy. But do you have any hints and tips that we can adopt for working parents?
Well, definitely pre-planning what you're going to be having for the nightly meal, and even for your breakfast and lunch. I think that's really important, because if it's not there in the cupboard ready to go, it's less likely that it will get done. So finding that time either on your weekend or whenever it is that you can, and get into a routine with it. If you're really time poor, there's always, click and collect or shopping online to do your order. There's always a way to get that done. And doing a meal plan for the week and sharing that with your family or whoever's helping in your family, whoever's cooking the meals, so that they know what's going on for the week. So there's no sort of confusion, there's no stress either about, what are we going to have for dinner? It's already pre-planned. And when it is pre-planned, it's less of a rush decision as well, and you actually have more time to kind of sit down and figure out what you're going to put on the plate that's balanced and nutritious, rather than being like, oh, we'll get a pizza base and we'll throw some sauce on it. Follow that kind of formula I was talking about before, about making sure there's a good amount of protein on the plate, and then the good fats, the good carbs. It's well-rounded. That's good for everyone, not just women. That's good for every human being. In terms of getting the meal on the table every night, double batching meals and putting half in the freezer for another night is always useful. So then you've got that to pull on those nights that it's just super hectic. And also planning the meals around your schedule. So if you know that on a Tuesday it's really hectic because you've got the kids' swimming lessons or whatever, that you've either already thought ahead and made that meal and maybe frozen it down for that particular day, or you've planned something that's super simple, like, you know, like some steak and salad and rice, and that's pretty easy to get on the plate pretty quickly. But it's all about that preparation and organization.
Life of a working mum, being prepared and organized.
That's it. It's too stressful to get to 3:00 in the afternoon, you're at work, and you start thinking, oh, what are we going to have for dinner? And then, you know, you have to get to the shops, and that is impossible when you've got little kids with you. So getting it all done ahead of time is definitely key.
Yeah, I think also helps, as you said, relieve your stress levels. I know myself, like Sunday for me is my planning day, and then being able to go to the shops, get it all, and then I know, right, what's on for the menu for the plan for the week, and get inputs from everyone. What would they like?
Yes.
But it certainly makes such a difference. And that,
Definitely.
right, okay, like say, for example, tomorrow night, I've got to go to the shops to buy the salmon. So then we're then having that, so it's fresh, but it's little things that can, you know, help you save those 5 minutes. And also the stress levels. I know when my kids get home from childcare, they're ratty, they're hungry, they're tired, and it's whatever is prepared so they can get onto the table as quick as possible.
That's it. Yeah. It really saves a lot of pain and heartache on those evenings. And it doesn't have to take too long. Like I said, you could do an online order or click and collect, and it doesn't take too long. And then if you wanted to do some meal prep on your Sunday, if you can make it a little bit fun, like maybe you put some music on or put a podcast on or something, so that you're enjoying yourself whilst you're doing a little bit of this prep work. And then I always say getting the other family members involved as well, so it's not all on the mum. It doesn't have to be all on you. You can delegate, you know, and even if it means that in the beginning you have to give a bit of instruction on what needs to be done, but then your helpers can do it for themselves, and that's going to be a win-win situation.
100%. 100%. Now, Mel, what do you do for self-care?
Oh, well, I go to Pilates. I try and get there 3 times a week, and that's, I'm very blessed to have that support that means I can get to a class at 6:00 a couple of nights a week. And the other thing that going out for dinner with the girlfriends is always really good. I always find, just having a chat with your girlfriends, that in itself is a way to relieve stress. You just feel so much more energized once you've gotten out and been able to have that chat. And another thing I do semi-regularly is I'll take myself off to a movie by myself once kids are in bed on a weeknight, and I'll just go and see whatever I want to go see, and I might get the Choc Top or something like that and sit by myself and watch a movie. It's just something that I've done since becoming a mum, and I really enjoy it. So good. Now, Mel, you've also got a new program coming out and also a range of services. So how can people get in touch with you? Yes. So through my website, which is melissafinlaynutritionist.com, so no AU, or through Instagram, it's Mel Finlay _nutritionist. I'm on Instagram probably the most out of all the platforms. Yes, and I do have my group program is launching in the next couple of weeks. It's called Back to Balance, and it's all about showing women how to navigate all of the things that we just spoke about, really, and also with a specific or a special topic of perimenopause and that transition to that life stage, and how to kind of recognize the signs and what we can do to hopefully ease that transition to be more smooth and more enjoyable for you. So that's what that program is all about.
Sensational. So definitely check out Mel's content. Her content as well on Instagram is amazing and so informative. So highly recommend checking it out. Thank you so much for the chat today, Mel. I know that I've certainly learned a lot and got a lot out of it. Particularly, I'm sure many people will as well, being busy working mums, feeling tired and exhausted, but you've given us some really good hints and tips along the way to really help with that. So the way that we're fueling our bodies and minds, and just at the end of this, take 5 deep breaths, take a moment to yourself, some 10 minutes, and you'll no doubt start feeling a little bit more refreshed each and every day. So thank you so much, Mel. It's been a great chat.
You're welcome, and thanks so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to the Working Mama podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. I invite you also to join the Working Mama community on Facebook and join in the conversation with other like-minded working mums. Please also feel free to contact me on any of the Working Mama social channels. Remember, Mama is MUMMA, or website www.workingmama.com.au. I would appreciate you to share this podcast with friends and colleagues, especially those that are parents managing the juggle. And I would really appreciate if you had to take the time out to leave a review of the podcast. I'll be giving a shout out to select people that do so stay listening and you might be one of them. Thank you and see you next time. Have a great week.